Every person who starts researching Texas retirement ends up at the same short list: Austin, San Antonio, Fredericksburg, Georgetown, and its giant Sun City community. Then they look at Austin, where the typical home still sits above $500,000. They look at Fredericksburg, beautiful until you are stuck in wine country traffic every single weekend and paying tourist town prices for it. They look at Georgetown with its fees and its wait lists, and quietly, they start looking for the Texas that nobody put in the brochure. These are 12 retirement towns in Texas that actual retirees choose once they are done with the famous list. Each one has something the big names do not, and there is one quiet advantage waiting at the end that almost nobody mentions. Number 1 is the most retirement-dense town on this entire list. It sits on a lake, and its prices are softening in your favor right now. So stay with me, and let me walk you through them. Number 12 is Gonzales in Gonzales County, an hour and change east of San Antonio. Most people drive past Gonzales without realizing they are passing the birthplace of the Texas Revolution. This is the town that fired the first shot in 1835 and dared the world to come and take its cannon, and it has guarded that story ever since. The historic courthouse, finished in 1896, anchors a downtown so well preserved that the magazine This Old House once named Gonzales one of the best old house neighborhoods in America for its stock of affordable historic homes. The typical home sells for around $200,000, and the overall cost of living runs roughly a tenth below the national average. Independence Park gives you a community pool, ball fields, and a small golf course, and the Guadalupe River runs right past town. Gonzales is what happens when a town with national history stays small enough that almost nobody outside Texas has heard of it. Number 11 is Jefferson in Marion County, deep in the piney woods of East Texas. In the 1800s, this was one of the largest river ports in the state, a steamboat town they called the Queen of the Bayou, and that wealth left behind block after block of restored mansions. Today, Jefferson calls itself the bed and breakfast capital of Texas, with more than 20 award-winning inns and horse-drawn carriages on the original brick streets. It sits on Big Cypress Bayou beside Caddo Lake, the only natural lake in Texas, a maze of cypress trees and Spanish moss unlike anything else in the state. Home prices here sit well below the Texas median, which means you can still buy a genuine 19th century home for a fraction of what that same history would cost anywhere else. The nearest hospitals are a short drive away in Marshall and Longview. Jefferson is a town that already had its boom 150 years ago and has been quietly beautiful ever since. Number 10, Rockport on the Live Oak Peninsula in Aransas County, and Rockport is the honest one on this list. This is a coastal art colony where the typical home runs around $300,000 and the cost of living sits below average. Every winter, the only naturally occurring flock of whooping cranes left on Earth migrates to the nearby Aransas Refuge, more than 100,000 acres holding over 400 bird species. Rockport Beach is the only certified clean water beach of its kind in Texas. Here is the honest part. This stretch of coast takes hurricanes, and Rockport was hit hard not long ago. And there is no hospital in town, so serious care means driving to Corpus Christi. For most people on this list, that is not the right trade. For the ones who need salt water and birdsong every morning, it is the only one that makes sense. If you have followed me this far, you already care more about getting this decision right than the people who just skim the famous 5 and book a flight. The next towns are where the real value starts hiding. Number 9 is Nacogdoches in the deep East Texas pines, and almost nobody pictures it as a retirement town, which is exactly why it works. It is the oldest town in Texas, settled long before the state existed, and it carries that history in its old stone fort and red brick streets. Stephen F. Austin State University keeps the town young, and it gave the area one of the largest azalea gardens in the country, which explodes into color every spring. The typical home value is around $228,000, well under the state average, and the town has its own hospital plus a university health presence. Retirees who land here tend to say the same thing. They came for the affordability and stayed for a college town energy they did not expect at this stage of life. Number 8 is Glen Rose in Somervell County, southwest of Fort Worth, and Glen Rose is the dinosaur capital of Texas. That is not marketing. At Dinosaur Valley State Park, you can walk the actual footprints of dinosaurs pressed into the bed of the Paluxy River, some of the clearest tracks in the world. Just outside town, Fossil Rim is a sprawling drive through a wildlife center where endangered animals roam loose around your car. A limestone courthouse square anchors downtown, and the Paluxy and the Brazos give you rivers in 2 directions. Home values across the county tend to land in the 400,000s, with the in-town core more affordable than the river acreage. Glen Rose is the rare small town where a quiet retirement comes with dinosaurs in the backyard. Number 7 is Brenham in Washington County, sitting right in the rolling hills between Houston and Austin. Most people know Brenham for one thing without knowing it is Brenham, because this is the home of Bluebell, the ice cream churned here since 1907. But the town is far more than a creamery. It has a walkable, historic downtown full of antiques, fields that turn solid blue, with bluebonnets every spring, and Washington on the Brazos just up the road, the very spot where Texas declared its independence. The typical home value is around $245,000, up almost 6% over the past year, and a Baylor, Scott & White hospital serves the town directly. Number 6 is Seguin in Guadalupe County, just a short drive east of San Antonio, and Seguin proves a small town can have a sense of humor. Standing on its courthouse square is the original world's largest pecan, a monument to the nut that built the local economy. The town also keeps the Sebastopol House, a striking 19th century home, and a paddling trail right on the Guadalupe River. The typical home value sits in the high 200,000, well below the national average, and Guadalupe Regional Medical Center gives the town a full-service hospital of its own. With a small university and big city care half an hour away, Seguin offers the rare combination of cheap, historic, and convenient all at once. By the way, if water near your door matters to you, keep watching, because the final towns are built around it. Number 5 is Salado in Bell County, a village so small it nearly disappears off the highway, and yet it is one of the most beloved arts towns in Texas. Salado's motto is "Artfully Yours," and it earns it with galleries, a sculpture garden of large outdoor works, and the historic Stagecoach Inn, one of the oldest continuously operating inns in the state, welcoming travelers since the 1860s. Salado Creek winds right through the village. Homes here are more upscale, with a median around $530,000, and prices have eased a little over the past year. The payoff is location, because just up the road in Temple sits one of the largest hospitals in the region, a Baylor, Scott & White teaching center putting world-class care 15 minutes from a village that feels a century away. Now stop for a second, because this next stretch is the part that matters most. If you are about to sell a house somewhere colder and carry that equity south, or you want a lake at the end of your street without the coast's hurricane risk, the final towns are where the numbers and the lifestyle finally line up. This is the part you came for. Number 4 is Denison in Grayson County, up on the Oklahoma border. And Denison is the only town here that can claim both a president and a lake. Dwight Eisenhower was born in Denison in 1890, and the modest frame house where it happened is preserved as a state historic site. 10 minutes north sits Lake Texoma, one of the largest reservoirs in the entire country, with more than 500 miles of shoreline, marinas, and a state park named for the same president. The typical home value is around $230,000 and has actually softened about 6% over the past year, leaving it far below anything you would pay in nearby Dallas. Denison is a presidential birthplace, a lake town, and a bargain, all at the same time. Number 3 is Wimberley in Hays County, tucked into the hill country between Austin and San Antonio. And Wimberley is the artist's hideaway that the bigger hill country names quietly envy. This is where the Blanco River meets Cypress Creek, home to Jacob's Well, a stunningly deep natural spring, and Blue Hole, one of the most beloved swimming spots in Texas. Once a month, the whole town turns into Wimberley Market Days, one of the largest open-air markets in the region. It is the most expensive town so far, with a typical value around $560,000. But here is the opening, because those values have fallen roughly 11% over the past year, the steepest cooling on this entire list. Full hospitals sit a short drive away in San Marcos and Kyle. For a buyer who has watched the hill country price itself into the sky, Wimberley is suddenly negotiable again. And that brings us toward the top. But stay right here, because the number 1 town is the most retiree dense on this list. It sits on its own lake, and it comes with a financial advantage for people over 65 that quietly changes the entire math of retiring in Texas. The reason it lands at number 1 is the part almost nobody explains correctly. Number 2 is Marble Falls in Burnett County, sitting in the middle of the Highland Lakes, the chain many Texans consider the best in the state to live on. Lake Marble Falls and Lake LBJ are right here, with Lake Travis and Lake Buchanan a short drive in either direction, and the granite hills around town give it scenery the flatter parts of Texas can only dream about. Downtown has filled in with galleries, restaurants, and golf, and the town has its own Baylor Scott and White Hospital. The typical home value is around $450,000, and like much of the hill country, it has cooled about 6% over the past year. Marble Falls is the answer for the retiree who wants lake living without giving up a real downtown and real medical care. And that brings us to number 1, Granbury in Hood County, southwest of Fort Worth. I told you it would be the most retirement-dense town on this list, and I meant it, because nearly 30% of Granbury is already over 65, the highest share on this entire countdown. The town wraps around Lake Granbury, with the water running right through the middle of everything. And its historic courthouse square was the first in Texas listed on the National Register, a square still lined with a restored opera house, shops, and cafes. The typical home value is around $368,000, and recent sales have softened enough to give patient buyers real room to negotiate. Lake Granbury Medical Center sits right in town, with the full weight of Fort Worth's hospitals less than an hour up the road. And here is the advantage I promised you, the part that quietly changes everything. Texas charges no state income tax at all, so your pension, your Social Security, and your retirement withdrawals are never touched by the state. The trade has always been high property taxes, but once you turn 65 in Texas, your school property taxes, the largest piece of that bill, are frozen in place and cannot rise on you. In a lake town full of retirees, that is the difference between a budget that creeps up on you and one that finally holds still. So here is the thread that ties all 12 of these towns together. Not one of them is a compromise. They are the places real Texans choose once they stop trusting the brochure. A history town where the revolution started, a village with dinosaurs in the riverbed, and a lake town where the tax bill finally stops climbing the year you need it to. Those towns have always been here. The only question was whether you went looking for them. So tell me where you land. Drop a comment with the town on this list you had never heard of before today, and tell me whether you are still working or already counting down the years. And if you already live in one of these towns, tell the rest of us what the brochures got wrong about it, because your answer helps someone watching right now. If you want to understand the other side of this story, hit subscribe And stay close, because next I am breaking down the Texas towns where home prices are actually falling the fastest right now, the places where waiting one more year could save you tens of thousands of dollars. And the number one town on that list is one most people would never expect. We will see you in the next one.